The confirmation email glowed on my phone screen at 3:47 a.m., and my entire world stopped spinning. Thank you for canceling your reservation at the Mauna Lani Resort. No refund will be issued for cancellations made less than 48 hours before check-in. I read it 3 times. 4 times. My hands trembled so badly the phone nearly slipped from my grip. We were supposed to leave for Hawaii in 6 hours. The kids had been packed for days. Brielle had made a countdown calendar. Cameron had practiced swimming in the bathtub every night this week, pretending he was already in the ocean. Derek slept beside me, his breathing deep and undisturbed, the same man who had kissed me goodnight and whispered, "Can't wait for tomorrow, baby. This trip is going to change everything." He was right about that last part. I slid out of bed, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The house felt different in these pre-dawn hours, colder, like it already knew what I was about to discover. I grabbed Derek's laptop from his home office, my heart hammering so loud I was sure it would wake him. His password had always been our anniversary, 0612. When it worked, I almost wished it hadn't. The first thing I saw was an email chain with someone named Rochelle. The subject line read, "Can't wait to see you in Cabo." Cabo. Not Hawaii. Cabo. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might be sick right there on his expensive Persian rug. I clicked the thread with shaking fingers. Leaving at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Finally get you all to myself for a whole week. The villa is perfect, right on the beach. Can't believe we're finally doing this. The response from Derek, sent at 11:47 p.m., less than 4 hours ago after he'd kissed me goodnight. Been waiting for this for months. Told us the trip was canceled due to hotel issues. She bought it. See you soon, beautiful. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of his desk, trying to remember how to breathe. 12 years. 12 years of marriage, 2 children, a life I thought we'd built together, and here he was, planning to leave me and the kids behind while he flew to Mexico with another woman. But I kept reading because something told me there was more. There's always more. I found it in a folder labeled Investment Properties, dozens of documents I'd never seen before. Property deeds. Mortgage statements. Bank accounts I didn't know existed. And there, in a spreadsheet titled Portfolio Overview, I saw a number that made my blood run cold. $847,293. $847,293. I opened our joint savings account app with trembling hands. The balance read $12,458. Last month it had been $212,000. Last month we had been planning this family trip, celebrating Cameron's birthday, talking about Brielle's private school tuition. He had taken almost everything. Nearly $200,000 from our joint accounts, liquidated without my signature, probably forged, and somehow, impossibly, he built that money into almost $850,000 through real estate investments I knew nothing about. Investments made in his name only. Properties I had no legal claim to. Money that came from my inheritance when my father died. Money from the business I'd given up to raise our children. Money from 12 years of partnership, or what I thought was partnership. I scrolled through property addresses in Austin, Atlanta, Charlotte. Rental income statements. Projected returns. He'd been building a real estate empire on my sacrifice, my trust, my inheritance, and he'd planned it all carefully, meticulously. And now he was going to disappear to Mexico with Rochelle, leaving me with almost nothing. The sun was starting to rise, soft light creeping through the office window. In a few hours, Brielle and Cameron would wake up, run downstairs with their suitcases, ready for the adventure they'd been dreaming about for months. They'd ask why Daddy looked nervous. They'd wonder why we weren't leaving for the airport. And Derek would stand there, look them in their sweet, trusting faces and lie. He would tell them the hotel made a mistake. He would comfort them while they cried. He would probably take them for ice cream, play the devoted father, and then he would catch his real flight to Cabo while I dealt with their broken hearts. Unless I stopped him. I heard movement upstairs, Derek's morning routine starting. Shower running. Soon he'd be down here, smiling at me, asking if I was excited, maintaining this elaborate performance right up until the moment he walked out our door. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Natasha. So excited for you guys. Have the best time in Hawaii. Send pics. Airplane hibiscus. Another email notification. This one from American Airlines. Reminder. Your flight to Cabo San Lucas departs at 10:15 a.m. I looked at the screen, then at the laptop, then at the folder of financial documents that represented Derek's betrayal, his theft, his complete dismantling of our life together. Something in me shifted. It wasn't sadness, not yet. That would come later. Right now, it was rage, pure and crystalline and clarifying. He thought he was smart. He thought he'd planned everything perfectly. He thought I was too trusting, too focused on the kids, too comfortable in our life to ever check, to ever question, to ever fight back. He was wrong. I heard his footsteps on the stairs. I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen, started the coffee maker like this was any other morning. Like I didn't know. Like the next few hours weren't about to change everything. Derek walked in, already dressed in travel clothes, smiling that smile I'd loved for 12 years. Morning beautiful. Big day. You excited? I looked at him, really looked at him and saw a stranger. So excited, I said, my voice steady despite the screaming in my chest. Can't wait to see what today brings. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his coffee, completely unaware that I knew everything. Completely unaware that I was about to burn his entire plan to the ground. I waited until 8:30 a.m. Derek had been checking his watch every few minutes, probably calculating when he needed to leave for his real flight to Cabo. The kids were still asleep. I'd snuck into their rooms an hour earlier and whispered that we'd let them sleep in, that there was a surprise coming. At least that part wasn't a lie. Derek, can you come here for a second? I kept my voice light, casual. I need help with something in your office. He followed me, coffee in hand, probably thinking about Rochelle and Mexican beaches and how he'd almost gotten away with it all. I closed the office door behind us and locked it. Simone, what? I opened his laptop, pulled up the emails, watched his face drain of color. I know about Cabo, I said quietly. I know about Rochelle. I know about the $200,000 you stole from our joint accounts. I know about every single property you bought with my father's inheritance money. I know about all of it, Derek. He stood frozen for 3 full seconds before his expression shifted. I watched it happen in real time, shock melting into calculation, then into something uglier. Defensiveness mixed with contempt. Simone, listen. No. My voice came out stronger than I expected. You're done talking. For 12 years I've listened to you. I've trusted you. I've sacrificed my career, my dreams, my own ambitions because you said we were building something together. You said we were partners. We are partners. Partners don't steal. Partners don't lie. Partners don't plan secret vacations with other women while their children pack suitcases for a trip that was never real. His jaw clenched. You're being dramatic. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it? I stepped closer, my hands shaking but my voice steady. Explain to me how emails that say, "Can't wait to see you in Cabo," and "told us the trip was canceled," mean something different than what they clearly say. He ran his hand through his hair and I saw panic flash across his face. Rochelle is a business partner. We're looking at investment properties in Mexico. That's all. Stop lying to me. The words exploded out before I could stop them. I've seen everything, Derek. The properties in Austin, Atlanta, Charlotte. The $847,000 portfolio you built with money you stole from our family. Money from my father's death. Money I trusted you with. That money was earning nothing in our savings account. I was trying to build wealth for our family. By putting everything in your name only? By forging my signature on withdrawal forms? By planning to leave the country with another woman while I explained to our children why their father abandoned them. Something shifted in his expression. The defensiveness hardened into cold anger. You want to know the truth, Simone? Fine. I'm tired. Tired of this life, this house, this routine. Tired of coming home to someone who gave up her edge years ago. You used to be ambitious, driven. Now you're just comfortable. The words landed like physical blows, but I refused to let him see me break. So you decided to punish me for being the mother you wanted me to be? For raising your children while you built a secret empire? I built that empire myself. With my knowledge, my risks, my decisions. You would have been too scared to invest that aggressively. You didn't give me a choice. My voice dropped to something dangerous. You stole from me, lied to me, and now you're trying to justify it by saying I wasn't good enough for you anymore. He checked his watch again. 8:47 a.m. His flight was in less than 90 minutes. I need to go, he said, moving toward the door. I didn't budge from where I stood. You're not going anywhere. Simone, move. I've already called my attorney, Beverly Stone. She's filing an emergency petition this morning for a restraining order and a temporary freeze on all accounts in your name. I've documented everything, every email, every property deed, every transaction. I've sent it all to her, to my financial advisor, and to a secure cloud storage. You can't delete it. You can't hide it. His face went pale. You can't do that. Those are my investments. Made with my money. My inheritance. Money that should have been in marital accounts, not hidden in your name only. You committed fraud, Derek. Financial abuse. And if you try to leave for that airport, I'll have you arrested for theft and fraud before you make it through security. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and showed him a text thread with Beverly Stone. Her most recent message, sent 10 minutes ago, all papers filed. Sheriff's deputy standing by if needed. Do not let him leave the house. Derek stared at the screen, then at me. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. This is insane. You're overreacting. I'm protecting my children and my future. Something you stopped caring about the moment you decided Rochelle and beach villas were more important than your family. A soft knock on the door made us both jump. Brielle's voice, small and worried. Mom? Dad. Why is the door locked? My heart shattered. I looked at Derek, saw him realize what came next. The moment he'd have to face his daughter and admit the truth, or watch me do it for him. We're about to have a very honest conversation with our children, I said quietly. You're going to sit there and you're going to let them hear the truth. All of it. Simone, please. Or I call the deputy right now and you explain to them why you're being escorted out in handcuffs. He slumped into his desk chair, defeated. For 12 years I'd loved this man, built a life with him, trusted him completely. And now, watching him crumble under the weight of his own lies, I felt nothing but cold determination. I unlocked the door. Brielle stood there in her pajamas, Cameron peeking out from behind her. Both of them looked confused, scared. Come here, babies, I said, pulling them close. Mommy needs to talk to you about some changes that are happening. But I need you to know no matter what, you're safe. You're loved. And we're going to be okay. Brielle looked past me to her father and I saw her piece it together in real time. She was so smart. Too smart. We're not going to Hawaii, are we? No, sweetheart. We're not. Cameron's lip trembled. Why not? I looked at Derek, giving him one last chance to be honest, to be the father these children deserved. He opened his mouth, closed it, then dropped his head into his hands. So I told them the truth. Age-appropriate, gentle but honest. Their father had made some very bad choices. He'd lied about the trip. He'd hurt our family. And things were going to be different now, but we would get through it together. Cameron started crying. Brielle went rigid, her face an unreadable mask. And Derek sat there, silent, unable to even look at them. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty, I'd already won. Because he'd lost the only things that had ever really mattered. And I was just getting started. By noon, Derek was gone. Not to Cabo, Beverly's restraining order and asset freeze had seen to that, but to his brother's apartment across town, escorted by a deputy who'd made it clear he couldn't return to the house without supervision. I stood in our bedroom, his closet half empty, and felt nothing. Just a strange, hollow calm. Brielle hadn't spoken since I'd told them the truth. She'd gone to her room, closed the door quietly, and hadn't come out. Cameron had cried himself to sleep on the couch, his face pressed against his favorite stuffed elephant. My phone rang. Natasha. I'm on my way over, she said before I could even say hello. Don't argue. I'm bringing food, wine, and my laptop. We need to see exactly what that snake did to your finances. Tasha, I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. Because you're not doing this alone. She hung up before I could protest. 20 minutes later, she was at my door, arms full of takeout containers and a leather briefcase that meant business. Natasha Reed had been my best friend since our freshman year at Howard University. We'd pledged the same sorority, shared an apartment senior year, and stood beside each other at our weddings. She'd built a successful career as a financial advisor while I'd stepped back from my marketing consulting work to raise Brielle and Cameron. Looking at her now, sharp blazer, designer bag, confidence radiating from every pore, I felt something I hadn't expected, envy mixed with pride. She'd kept building her empire. I'd let mine crumble. Stop it, she said, reading my face like she always could. I can see you spiraling. Don't you dare compare your journey to mine. You made choices for your family. There's no shame in that. He called me comfortable. Said I'd lost my edge. Natasha set down the food and pulled me into a fierce hug. Derek is a thief and a liar. His opinion stopped matching the second he stole from you. Now sit down. We're going to fix this. She spread documents across my dining room table, printouts I'd emailed her earlier, plus new ones she'd pulled from financial databases I didn't even know existed. Okay, she said, laptop open, glasses perched on her nose in that way that meant she was in full professional mode. Let's talk about what we're dealing with. Derek transferred $198,450 from your joint savings over a 6-month period. Small transfers, Nothing that would trigger automatic alerts. He knew exactly what he was doing. Can we prove it was unauthorized? That's the tricky part. Technically, he had access to the joint account. But, she pulled up another document. He forged your signature on 3 separate investment forms. I compared them to your actual signature on file at the bank. They're close but not perfect. An expert will catch it. So we can prove fraud? Absolutely. But here's where it gets interesting. She turned the laptop toward me. These properties he bought? Austin, Atlanta, Charlotte. They're worth more than he paid. A lot more. The Austin property alone has appreciated $180,000 in 18 months. My stomach twisted. So he was right? It was a good investment. Made with stolen money. That doesn't make it his. Natasha's expression was fierce. In a divorce, assets acquired during marriage are marital property, even if they're in one person's name. And when we prove he committed fraud to acquire them, the court will not be kind to him. What does that mean for me? It means, sweetie, you're about to be a very wealthy woman. When this is done, you'll own half of everything he tried to hide from you. Maybe more, given the circumstances. The words hung in the air. Half of $847,000. Over $400,000. More money than I'd seen in years of marriage, more than I'd had in my account since my father died. I don't want his money, I whispered. I just want my kids to be okay. Then use it to make them better than okay. Use it to rebuild. Use it to show them what strength looks like. Natasha reached across and squeezed my hand. But first, we need to make sure Derek can't hide anything else. We spent the next 3 hours going through everything. Bank statements, credit card records, property tax documents. Natasha had a gift for finding patterns, inconsistencies, hidden trails. She found a 4th property I hadn't known about, a condo in Miami purchased just 2 months ago. $425,000. Rented out for $4,500 a month. This is it, Natasha said, excitement creeping into her voice. This is the one that sinks him. Look at the purchase date. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Want to bet who he bought it for? She pulled up the rental listing. The photo showed a luxury waterfront condo, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, everything staged perfectly. And in one photo, reflected in a mirror in the background, a woman with long dark hair holding a champagne glass. Rochelle. He bought her a condo, I said flatly. With my inheritance money. For Valentine's Day. Yep. And he's been renting it out when she's not there, pocketing the income. This isn't just fraud, Simone. This is calculated, premeditated financial abuse. He's been planning this for over a year, maybe longer. The doorbell rang. I jumped, my nerves shot. Natasha went to answer it while I sat there, staring at the photo of Rochelle in the condo my father's death had paid for. Simone. My mother's voice, warm and concerned. Baby girl, what's going on? Lorraine Jenkins swept into the dining room like a force of nature. At 62, my mother was still striking. Silver locks pulled back elegantly, deep brown skin that seemed to defy age, and eyes that could read me better than anyone alive. She took one look at my face, then at the papers spread across the table, and her expression hardened. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a chair. And don't leave anything out. So I did. I told her about the canceled trip, the emails, the money, the properties, Rochelle, the condo. Everything poured out in a rush of words and tears I'd been holding back all morning. Mom listened without interrupting, her hand covering mine on the table. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Your daddy would be proud of you, she finally said. Proud? Mom, I let Derek steal from me for months. I didn't even notice. You trusted your husband. That's not weakness, that's love. But what you did this morning, that's strength. You found the truth, you protected yourself, and you stood up for your children. That's my daughter. That's who you've always been. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I don't feel strong. I feel stupid. Stupid would be taking him back. Stupid would be believing his lies. You did neither. She stood up, walked to where I sat, and pulled me into her arms the way she'd done since I was Brielle's age. You're going to get through this. We all are. Those babies upstairs need to see their mother fight. They need to learn that when someone hurts you, you don't crumble. You rise. I don't know how to rise from this. Mom pulled back and looked at me with that fierce love that had carried me through every hard moment of my life. One day at a time, baby. One decision at a time. And you've already made the hardest decisions. Everything from here is just following through. Natasha appeared with plates of food. Lorraine's right. And I'm going to help you follow through. We're meeting with Beverly tomorrow morning. She's got a strategy that's going to make Derek wish he'd never heard the name Simone Carter. What kind of strategy? A slow smile spread across Natasha's face. The kind where you end up with everything you deserve. And he ends up with exactly what he earned, nothing but consequences. For the first time since 3:47 a.m., I felt something other than pain and rage. I felt hope. Small, fragile, but real. Upstairs, I heard Brielle's door open. Footsteps on the stairs. She appeared in the dining room doorway, eyes red from crying, but her expression determined. "Mom," she said quietly, "can I help?" I looked at my daughter, 9 years old and already so much stronger than I'd been at twice her age, and made a decision. "Yes, sweetheart. You can help. Come here." She sat beside me and I showed her the papers. Age-appropriate versions. Explained what Daddy had done and what we were doing to fix it. I didn't hide from the truth. I didn't pretend things were fine. I showed her what it looked like to fight back. And when Cameron woke up and shuffled into the room, thumb in mouth, looking lost, I pulled him onto my lap and told him the same thing. Things are going to be different now. It's going to be hard sometimes. You might feel sad or angry or confused, but we're going to be okay. Because we have each other, and we have Grandma, and we have Aunt Tasha, and we are stronger than we think. Cameron hugged me tight. Brielle leaned against my shoulder. Mom and Natasha stood behind us, hands on our shoulders. We were a circle of women and children, broken but undefeated. And Derek had no idea what was coming for him. Beverly Stone's office was downtown, on the 23rd floor of a gleaming high-rise. Through the windows I could see the entire city spread out below us, a view that made me feel both powerful and terrifyingly small. Beverly herself was sharp as a blade. Mid-40s, black woman in a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, and an expression that said she'd seen every trick and won every battle. "Mrs. Carter," she said, shaking my hand with a grip that was firm without being aggressive. "I've reviewed everything you and Ms. Reed sent over. We have an excellent case. What happens now?" She gestured for me to sit, then spread a series of documents across her polished desk. Natasha sat beside me, her presence steadying. "Now we go to war," Beverly said simply. "But strategic war. Smart war. We're not just going after your money back. We're making sure Derek Carter learns what happens when you steal from your family." Over the next hour, she laid out her strategy. First, we'd file for divorce immediately, citing irreconcilable differences and financial malfeasance. The emergency asset freeze was already in place, which meant Derek couldn't sell, transfer, or hide any more properties. Second, we'd subpoena all financial records from the last 3 years. Every bank account, every credit card, every investment. Natasha had already identified the major threads, but Beverly wanted to dig deeper. "Men like your husband rarely hide just one thing," she explained. "If he was careful enough to build an $847,000 portfolio in secret, he was careful enough to leave other trails. We need to find them all." Third, and this was the part that made my stomach twist, we'd depose Rochelle. "She's the other woman," Beverly said bluntly. "But she's also a witness. If Derek told her about the money, the properties, his plans, she can testify to his intent. Premeditation matters in financial abuse cases. Won't she just lie to protect him?" Beverly's smile was sharp. "She might try. But she's also in legal jeopardy herself. If she knew the Miami condo was purchased with fraudulently obtained funds, she could be charged as an accessory. When people realize they might face criminal charges, they tend to become very forthcoming." "You'd actually charge her?" "I'd threaten to. The DA is a friend. She owes me a favor." Beverly leaned back in her chair. "Simone, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about money. This is about making an example. Derek thought you were weak, that you'd never fight back. We're going to show him and anyone else who thinks they can abuse their spouse financially that there are consequences. Real ones." I thought about Brielle's face yesterday, the way she'd gone silent when she realized the truth. About Cameron's tears. About 12 years of my life I'd given to a man who'd repaid me with theft and betrayal. What do you need from me? Everything. Every email, every conversation you remember about finances, every time he discouraged you from checking accounts or made decisions without you. We're building a pattern of financial control and abuse. The clearer the pattern, the stronger our case. For the next 2 hours I talked. Beverly and Natasha took notes, asked questions, pieced together a timeline. Derek had always handled the finances. I trusted him, thought it was one less thing to worry about. But looking back now, I saw the red flags I'd missed. How he dismissed my suggestions about financial planning. I've got it covered, baby. Don't worry. How he discouraged me from reopening my consulting business. The kids need you home. We don't need the extra income. How he'd convinced me to put my father's inheritance into our joint account, then slowly moved it out. Better growth opportunities. You'll see. Every memory was a knife, but I forced myself to remember them all. When we finally finished, Beverly looked satisfied. This is good. Very good. We'll have everything filed by end of week. The divorce hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. I pulled some strings to fast-track it given the fraud concerns. 3 weeks. That felt both too fast and agonizingly slow. 3 weeks until we get temporary orders in place. Full divorce will take longer, but we'll have custody, child support, and temporary asset distribution handled quickly. What about Derek? What can he do in 3 weeks? With the asset freeze? Not much. But his attorney will fight back. They'll argue he had authority to make investment decisions, that he was growing marital assets for the family's benefit, that you're overreacting to a relationship issue. A relationship issue, I repeated flatly. That's how they'll spin it. Fair, yes. Stupid, yes. But not theft. Not fraud. They'll say the money was always marital property, just invested differently. But the forged signatures will help us. But we need to be prepared for this to get ugly. Derek's not going to go down quietly. When men like him get cornered, they get desperate. Beverly's expression was serious. Which brings me to my next point. Safety. Safety? Has Derek ever been violent? Aggressive? Threatened you? No. Never. He's not. Derek isn't like that. You didn't think he was a thief either, Natasha said gently. Not trying to scare you, but Beverly's right. We need to be careful. Beverly nodded. I'm not saying he will be violent. Most white-collar fraudsters aren't. But I've seen situations escalate when money's involved. Large amounts of money. I want you to consider a few precautions. She outlined them. Changing locks, already done. Security cameras, I could install them this week. And keeping a record of all communication with Derek. No in-person meetings without a witness. Everything documented. And if he threatens you in any way, and I mean any way, even financial threats, you call me immediately. We can upgrade the restraining order. I nodded, my head spinning. This morning I'd been a suburban mom planning her next grocery run. Now I was discussing restraining orders and legal strategies like they were normal parts of life. Maybe they were now. Beverly walked us to the door. Simone? One more thing. This is going to be hard. Emotionally exhausting. But you're doing the right thing. For yourself and your children. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. Thank you, I managed. Outside, in the elevator down, Natasha squeezed my hand. You okay? I don't know. This all feels surreal. It is surreal. But you heard Beverly, we have a strong case. Derek's going down, and you're going to come out of this with your dignity, your money, and your freedom. What if I don't want to do this anymore? What if I just want things to go back to normal? Natasha stopped the elevator between floors, pressed the emergency stop button. Turned to face me fully. Simone, look at me. There is no going back. Normal doesn't exist anymore. Derek destroyed it when he stole from you and planned to abandon you. The only direction now is forward. And forward means fighting. I'm tired of fighting. It's been 2 days and I'm already exhausted. I know. But you know what's more exhausting? Letting him win. Letting him take your father's money, your future, your self-respect. You think you're tired now? Imagine how tired you'd be spending the next 20 years knowing you let him get away with it. She was right. I knew she was right. She restarted the elevator. Besides, you're not doing this alone. You have me. You have your mom. You have Beverly. And once this is over, you're going to rediscover something you forgot. What? How badass you actually are. Despite everything, I laughed. A real laugh, the first in days. We stepped out into the parking garage. The afternoon sun was bright, almost offensive in its cheerfulness. But for the first time since seeing that email at 3:47 a.m., I felt like maybe I could handle this. Maybe I was stronger than I thought. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Please. I can explain everything. D. I showed it to Natasha. She grabbed my phone, typed back with quick, angry fingers. All communication goes through our attorneys. Do not contact me directly again. Set. Blocked the number. Handed my phone back. That, she said, is how we handle Derek from now on. No explanations, no second chances, no more lies. Just lawyers and consequences. I saved his blocked contact to show Beverly later. Documentation. Everything documented now. As I drove home, I thought about Brielle and Cameron, probably with my mom right now, eating snacks and watching cartoons and trying to feel normal. They deserved better than a father who stole from them. They deserved a mother who fought back. And that's exactly what they were going to get. The next 2 weeks were a blur of documents, depositions, and discoveries that kept getting worse. Natasha had been right. Derek hadn't just hidden one secret. He'd hidden dozens. She'd hired a forensic accountant named Gerald Harper, a quiet man in his 50s who looked like somebody's gentle uncle but had a reputation for finding money people thought they'd buried deep. He'd spent 5 days examining every financial transaction Derek had made in 3 years. What he found made my stomach turn. We sat in Natasha's office, surrounded by printouts and spreadsheets, while Gerald walked us through it. "Mrs. Carter, your husband has been systematically moving money out of your joint accounts for 27 months, he said, his voice matter-of-fact, like he was discussing weather. Starting small, $2,000 here, $3,500 there. Amounts below the threshold that would trigger alerts. He transferred them to an account in his name only, then moved that money into various investment vehicles. We knew about the real estate," I said. "The real estate is just part of it." Gerald pulled up another document. "He also has a brokerage account with $127,000 in stocks, a cryptocurrency wallet with approximately $43,000, and, this is interesting, a LLC registered in Delaware called Carter Investments, LLC. A company? He started a company? 6 months ago. It owns 2 of the rental properties, which makes them business assets. He likely thought it would protect them in a divorce, make them harder to claim as marital property." Natasha leaned forward. "Will it? Not when we prove the LLC was funded entirely with fraudulently obtained marital funds. If anything, it shows premeditation. He was planning for a divorce before he even asked for one." The words hit me like a physical blow. 6 months ago, Derek had been planning his exit while I'd been organizing Cameron's birthday party, while I'd been planning our anniversary dinner, while I'd been living in a marriage I thought was real. "How much total?" I asked. "Altogether, how much did he take?" Gerald consulted his spreadsheet. "From your joint accounts, $198,450. From your personal account that you'd added him to when your father died, another $67,000. He leveraged that money through real estate investments, which appreciated significantly. Current total value of all assets purchased with marital funds, $1,043,278. Over $1 million. My father's inheritance, money he'd saved his whole life working double shifts as a postal worker, had been turned into $1 million empire I'd known nothing about. Here's the part that will interest Judge Okafor," Gerald continued. "Mr. Carter made 16 separate purchases over 2 years. Every single one required paperwork. Mortgage applications, investment forms, LLC registration documents. On 11 of those documents, your signature appears. But I never signed them." "Exactly. Which means 11 counts of forgery. Add in the unauthorized transfers, and we're looking at potential criminal charges if the DA decides to pursue this." "Criminal charges?" My voice came out small. "Like jail? Financial fraud at this scale?" "Potentially. Though first-time white-collar offenses often get plea deals, probation, restitution. But the threat of criminal charges will strengthen our position in the divorce." After Gerald left, I sat in Natasha's office, staring at the city through her window. She brought me tea I didn't drink. "Simone," she said gently, "I know this is overwhelming. He could go to jail. The father of my children could go to prison. He committed crimes. I know he did. But Brielle and Cameron, how do I explain to them that their father's in prison? How does that help them?" Natasha was quiet for a long moment. "You're a better person than me, you know that? After everything he did, you're still worrying about protecting him." "I'm not protecting him. I'm protecting them." "Then let me ask you this, what teaches them a better lesson? That their father faced consequences for his actions? Or that he got away with it because you were too kind to fight back?" I didn't have an answer. That night I lay awake thinking about it. About Derek in a courtroom facing charges. About explaining to my kids why their father wasn't around. About the choice between justice and mercy, and whether they could coexist. Around 2 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Simone." Derek's voice, rough with exhaustion or alcohol or both. "Please just listen. How did you get this number?" "I blocked you. Borrowed a phone. Please, I just need 5 minutes." I should have hung up. Instead, I walked downstairs, careful not to wake the kids or my mother sleeping in the guest room. You have 3 minutes, I said coldly. And I'm recording this. I don't care. Record it. I need you to understand. I never meant for it to go this far. You stole $265,000 from me, Derek. Built a $1 million portfolio in secret. Bought a condo for your mistress. How far did you mean for it to go? I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to build something for us. Stop lying. The words burst out before I could stop them. I'm so tired of your lies. If you were building something for us, why was everything in your name only? Why forge my signature? Why plan to leave me with nothing while you vacationed in Mexico? Silence on the other end. Then, I was scared. Of what? Of you. Of this. Of being the failure. His voice cracked. My dad lost everything in the 2008 crash. Lost the house, his savings, everything. I watched it destroy him. I swore I'd never let that happen to my family. So I started investing, small at first, then bigger. And I was good at it, Simone. Really good. Every property I bought appreciated. Every investment paid off. So why hide it? Because you would have been scared. You would have said it was too risky. You would have wanted to keep everything safe in savings accounts earning nothing while inflation ate it away. I knew if I showed you the returns, proved it worked, you'd understand. You didn't give me a chance to understand. You just stole from me. It wasn't stealing. It was our money. You forged my signature 11 times, Derek. That's not investment strategy. That's fraud. Another long silence. Are you really going to have me arrested? Send the father of your children to prison? And there it was. The manipulation, the guilt trip, the attempt to make this my fault. I'm not sending you anywhere, I said quietly. You sent yourself there the day you decided lies and theft were acceptable. You did this. Not me. Simone, please. I'm begging you. We can fix this. I'll sign over half the properties right now. Give you everything you want. Just don't press charges. Don't destroy our family like this. You already destroyed it. The moment you chose Rochelle and beach condos over your wife and children. I'm just cleaning up your mess. I never slept with her. What? Rochelle. I never slept with her. She's my real estate agent. We were going to Cabo to look at investment properties, not what you thought. I swear on my children's lives, I never cheated on you. I wanted to laugh, or cry, or throw my phone across the room. Derek, I don't care if you slept with her or not. You still lied. You still stole. You still built a secret life funded by my father's death while I raised your children and trusted you. Whether you put your dick in her doesn't change any of that. So what, you're just going to take everything? Ruin my life? Leave me with nothing? I'm taking half of what you built with my money. That's not ruining your life. That's justice. And the criminal charges? I thought about Brielle's question last night. Mom, is Daddy going to jail? The fear in her voice. The way Cameron had cried himself to sleep again. I thought about my father, working until his hands ached, saving every penny so his family would be secure. How he died never knowing his son-in-law would steal that security away. I thought about 12 years of my life, given freely to a marriage I'd believed in. That's up to the DA, I said finally. Not me. If you committed crimes, you face the consequences. I'm not protecting you anymore. Simone. I hung up, blocked the new number, sat in my dark kitchen shaking. Mom appeared in the doorway wrapped in her robe. Baby girl? You okay? He called. Said he never cheated. Said he was just trying to protect us. She sat beside me, pulled me close. Do you believe him? I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't matter, does it? The cheating was never the worst part. The worst part was the lying. The stealing. The complete betrayal of everything I thought we were. Then you know what you have to do. Fight. Fight, she confirmed. Not for revenge. Not even for the money. Fight because your children are watching, and they need to see their mother refuse to accept abuse. They need to learn that love without respect isn't love at all. I leaned against her shoulder, this woman who'd raised me to be strong, and felt some of that strength flowing back into me. I'm scared, Mama. I know, baby. But you're doing it anyway. That's what bravery is. The morning of the temporary orders hearing, I threw up twice before I could keep down my coffee. Brielle watched me from the bathroom doorway, her expression too old for 9 years. You're nervous. Yeah, baby. I am. Are we going to be okay? I knelt down to her level, took her hands. Yes, we're going to be okay. Today's just about making sure we have everything we need while the lawyers figure out the rest. Boring grown-up stuff. Will we lose the house? My heart cracked. No, sweetheart. We're not losing the house. This is our home. She nodded, but I could see the worry still etched on her face. Kids aren't stupid. They know when adults are scared, even when we try to hide it. Mom arrived at 8 to stay with the kids. She squeezed my shoulders. Go show that judge who you are. Show her that Jenkins women don't break. The courthouse was downtown, all marble and echoing hallways and people in suits moving with purpose. Beverly met me outside the courtroom, looking sharp as ever in a charcoal suit. You ready? No. Good. Nerves keep you sharp. Remember what we talked about? Answer questions honestly, don't volunteer extra information, stay calm. Judge Okafor is fair but tough. She doesn't tolerate games. We walked in. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected from TV shows. Wooden benches, high ceiling, the judge's bench looming at the front. And there, across the aisle, sat Derek with his attorney. I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks. He looked thinner, tired, like he hadn't been sleeping. When our eyes met, he looked away quickly. Good. You should be ashamed. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Okafor presiding. Judge Okafor was a black woman in her mid-50s, silver hair pulled back severely, dark eyes that missed nothing. She settled into her seat and opened the file. Carter versus Carter. Petition for temporary orders regarding custody, support, and asset protection. She looked at both attorneys. This is a preliminary hearing, not a trial. I'm here to make temporary determinations until the final divorce decree. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, Beverly and Derek's attorney said in unison. Good. Mr. Patterson, your client is the respondent. He may speak first. Derek's attorney stood, a white man in his 60s, expensive suit, practiced smile. Your Honor, this case has been grossly mischaracterized. My client, Mr. Carter, is a devoted father and husband who made sound financial investments on behalf of his family. While there were perhaps some communication issues in the marriage, there was no theft, no fraud, no malicious intent. Counsel, Judge Okafor interrupted. I've read the forensic accounting report. 11 forged signatures. $265,000 transferred without joint authorization. An LLC created secretly. These are not communication issues. Please don't insult my intelligence. Patterson cleared his throat. Your Honor, in any marriage, one spouse often handles finances. With the knowledge and consent of the other spouse. Continue, but stick to facts relevant to the temporary orders. I felt a surge of hope. Judge Okafor wasn't buying his nonsense. Patterson argued for joint custody, for Derek to retain his property since he'd built them through his financial expertise, for minimal child support. His arguments felt hollow in the face of the evidence, but he made them confidently. Then it was Beverly's turn. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of financial abuse and fraud. Mr. Carter systematically stole from marital accounts, forged his wife's signature repeatedly, hid assets, and planned to abandon his family. Mrs. Carter seeks temporary full custody, child support calculated on Mr. Carter's actual income including rental properties, exclusive use of the marital home, and a freeze on all assets until full discovery is complete. What about visitation? The judge asked. Supervised visitation until we're confident Mr. Carter isn't a flight risk. He was preparing to leave the country when Mrs. Carter discovered the fraud. We believe he may attempt to liquidate and disappear if given the chance. Patterson stood. Your Honor, that's absurd speculation. Is it? Judge Okafor looked at Derek. Mr. Carter, did you or did you not book a flight to Cabo San Lucas scheduled to depart the same day your wife discovered your financial deception? Derek stood reluctantly. I did, Your Honor, but... Did you inform your wife you were leaving the country? No, but it was a business trip. A business trip you never mentioned to your wife. A business trip booked to depart the same morning you told your children you were all going to Hawaii together. She flipped through documents. A business trip to examine a property you'd already purchased 2 months earlier. Curious definition of business trip, Mr. Carter. Derek sat down, his face red. Judge Okafor looked at both attorneys. Here's what's going to happen. Temporary full custody to Mrs. Carter. Supervised visitation for Mr. Carter, 2 afternoons per week, at a neutral location. Child support calculated based on Mr. Carter's full income including rental properties. I'm estimating $8,000 monthly. We'll refine that number when we have complete financials. Patterson started to object. She held up a hand. I'm not finished. Mrs. Carter maintains exclusive use of the marital home. Mr. Carter is ordered to continue paying the mortgage. All assets remain frozen pending full divorce proceedings. And Mr. Carter, I'm ordering you to surrender your passport. Your Honor, that's unnecessary. 11 forged signatures, Mr. Carter. Over $1 million in hidden assets. A planned international trip your wife knew nothing about. I'd say it's very necessary. You'll get your passport back when this is resolved, assuming you're not facing criminal charges by then. My hands were shaking. Beverly squeezed my arm gently. Anything else? The judge asked. Beverly stood. One more matter, Your Honor. We've identified a property in Miami, a condo purchased with marital funds and allegedly gifted to a Ms. Rochelle Hampton. We'd like that property specifically designated as a marital asset. The Miami condo was a business investment, Patterson started. Then why is Ms. Hampton listed as the primary resident? Why has she been living there rent-free for 2 months? Beverly pulled out documents. We have utility bills, mail delivery confirmations, social media posts showing her living there. This was a gift to his mistress, purchased with his wife's inheritance money. Judge Okafor's expression darkened. Mr. Carter, did you purchase a $425,000 condo for someone who is not your wife using marital funds? Derek looked like he wanted to disappear. It's complicated. It's really not. Yes or no? The property is an investment that a woman who is not your wife lives in. For free. I'm ordering a full accounting of that property, and if the evidence supports Miss Stone's claim, that asset will be factored into the marital estate with appropriate penalties for dissipation of assets. She signed several documents, then looked at both of us. Let me be clear. This court does not look kindly on financial abuse. Marriage is a partnership, and assets acquired during marriage belong to both spouses. When one spouse systematically steals from and deceives the other, there are consequences. Severe consequences. She looked directly at Derek. You have 3 weeks until the next hearing. I suggest you use that time to think carefully about full disclosure and fair settlement. Because if you make me dig for more hidden assets, Mr. Carter, I promise you will not like what happens next. Court is adjourned. We stood as she left. I felt dizzy, like I might float away. Beverly turned to me, a rare smile on her face. That went about as well as we could have hoped. Judge Okafor is on our side. Across the aisle, Derek was having a heated whispered conversation with Patterson. He looked over at me once and I saw something in his face I'd never seen before, real fear. Good. Outside the courtroom, Beverly walked me through what happened next. More discovery. Depositions. Rochelle would be called to testify about the Miami condo. Financial experts would evaluate the full portfolio. And in 3 weeks, we'd be back for the next hearing. How are you feeling? She asked. Honestly? Terrified and relieved and angry all at once. That's normal. You just won a major battle. The judge clearly sees Derek for what he is. But the war isn't over yet. What about the criminal charges? Will they actually prosecute? I spoke with the DA's office this morning. They're reviewing the evidence. 11 forged signatures is hard to ignore. But prosecution takes time. They'll wait to see how the civil case resolves first. I nodded, trying to process it all. Natasha was waiting in the hallway, having watched from the gallery. She pulled me into a fierce hug. You did it? You really did it. Judge Okafor did it. No. You did it by being brave enough to fight. By finding the evidence. By not letting him gaslight you into thinking you were overreacting. We walked out of the courthouse into bright afternoon sun. 3 weeks ago, I'd been planning a family vacation. Now I was winning court battles and reclaiming my life. The journey wasn't over. But for the first time, I felt like maybe I could actually do this. My phone rang. Mom. How'd it go? We won. Temporary custody, child support, everything. I heard her tell the kids, heard their excited voices in the background. Cameron shouting, we get to stay home. Brielle's quieter but relieved. Okay. That's good. Come home, baby girl, Mom said. Your children want to celebrate with their mama. Home. The word had never sounded sweeter. The week after the hearing, something shifted in me. Maybe it was winning in court. Maybe it was seeing Derek's fear. Maybe it was just exhaustion giving way to clarity. But I woke up one morning and realized something important. I was tired of being the victim in my own story. For 3 weeks, I'd been reacting. To Derek's betrayal, to financial chaos, to legal battles. Defending, protecting, surviving. But I hadn't been living. And neither had my kids. Brielle had dark circles under her eyes from worry. Cameron had started having nightmares. They needed to see their mother do more than just fight their father in court. They needed to see me build something new. I called Natasha. Remember when you said I'd forgotten how badass I was? Yeah. I want to remember. Help me remember. She arrived that afternoon with her laptop, a bottle of wine, and a determined expression. Okay. Let's talk about what's next for Simone Carter. We sat at my dining room table, the same table where I'd discovered Derek's betrayal, and started planning my future. Before the kids, you were a marketing consultant, Natasha said. You were good at it. Really good. What would it take to start that up again? I don't know. It's been 12 years. The industry has changed. Digital marketing, social media, all these platforms that didn't exist when I left. So you learn. You're smart. You've always been smart. She pulled up a website. Look, 6-week intensive course in digital marketing. Starts next month. Online so you can do it from home while the kids are in school. I looked at the screen. Strategic Digital Marketing Certification. $3,500. I can't afford that right now. Yes, you can. You're about to get $8,000 a month in child support, remember? And you've still got some savings. Invest in yourself, Simone. It's not an expense. It's a down payment on your future. She was right. I'd been so focused on fighting Derek, I'd forgotten about building something for myself. What if I'm not good at it anymore? What if I've lost whatever edge I had? Then you find it again. But honestly, I don't think you lost anything. You just put it aside for a while. Raising kids is hard work. You were using all those same skills: organization, problem solving, managing multiple priorities. You just weren't getting paid for it. Over the next hour, we mapped out a plan. Take the course. Build a portfolio with some pro bono work for local nonprofits. Network online. Start small, maybe freelance projects. Eventually build it into a full consultancy again. You could even specialize, Natasha suggested. Work with women-owned businesses. Women going through transitions. You've got a story now, Simone. A powerful one. Use it. I thought about that. Marketing consultant for women rebuilding their lives. Women fighting back from financial abuse. Women reclaiming their power. Yeah, I could do that. The kids came home from school to find me surrounded by course catalogs and business plans. Brielle looked confused. Mom? What's all this? I'm starting a business, I said. Well, restarting. I used to help companies with their marketing before you were born. I'm going to do it again. Why? Because we're not just surviving anymore, baby. We're building something new. Something better. Something that's ours. Cameron climbed into my lap, sticky hands from his after-school snack. Will we still have time for stories? Always. Business happens during school hours. Evenings are for you. He seemed satisfied with that. Brielle studied the papers spread across the table. Can I help? How? I'm good at computers. I could help you with social media or something. I pulled her close. Yes, sweetheart. You can help. When you're a little older, we'll make you my social media manager. She smiled, a real smile, the first I'd seen in weeks. That night, after the kids were asleep, I enrolled in the digital marketing course. Paid the $3,500 with shaking hands, terrified and excited in equal measure. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I updated my LinkedIn profile. Changed my status from stay-at-home parent to marketing consultant, taking on new clients. Within an hour, I had 3 messages from old colleagues. People I hadn't talked to in a decade, surprised to see me back, asking what I'd been up to. I told them the truth. Not the details, but the core of it. I'd taken time to raise my family, and now I was ready to rebuild my career. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. 2 offered to grab coffee. 1 mentioned a friend who needed marketing help for a new bakery. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into the course. Studied during school hours. Took notes. Completed assignments. Learned about SEO and content marketing and social media algorithms. It was harder than I expected. Technology had evolved so much, but also exciting. I'd forgotten how much I loved this work. Meanwhile, the legal battle continued. Rochelle's deposition was scheduled. Derek's full financial disclosure was due. Beverly filed motions. Documents piled up. But I wasn't consumed by it anymore. Yes, I was fighting Derek in court. But I was also building something bigger than revenge or justice. I was building my future. One afternoon, Mom sat with me while I worked on a class project. Your daddy would be so proud of you, baby. I wish he could see this. He can. And he sees you taking that inheritance he left, the money Derek tried to steal, and turning it into something powerful. Not just money. Purpose. She was right. The money would matter, It would give me security, give my kids opportunities. But what mattered more was reclaiming my identity. Remembering I was more than a wife, more than a mother. I was Simone, and I had value beyond what I gave to other people. The digital marketing course introduced me to a life coach named Dominique Price as a guest speaker. She was a black woman in her early 40s who'd built a successful consulting business helping women entrepreneurs. Her story resonated with me, divorced, rebuilt her life, now thriving. After the webinar, I reached out. "Hi, I'm going through a divorce and starting over. Your story really inspired me. Any advice?" She responded within an hour. "Let's talk. Coffee next week?" We met at a cafe downtown. Dominique was elegant, confident, the kind of woman who walked into a room and commanded attention without trying. "Tell me your story," she said. So I did. The whole thing. Derek, the money, the properties, the court battle. She listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she leaned back. "You know what I hear in your story? Strength. You found out your husband betrayed you, and within hours you documented everything, hired an attorney, and started fighting. That's not a victim. That's a warrior. I don't feel like a warrior. I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's what warriors feel like. You think courage means not being scared? Courage means being terrified and doing it anyway. And you are doing it. The legal battle. The course. Rebuilding. That's not barely holding it together. That's thriving under pressure." Her words settled into me, warm and affirming. "What's your end game?" she asked. "After the divorce, after you reclaim your money, after you build your business. What does success look like for you?" I thought about it. Freedom. Financial freedom, so I never have to depend on anyone again. Emotional freedom, so my kids grow up knowing their mother is strong. And purpose. I want to help other women who've been where I am. Then let's make that happen. I mentor women entrepreneurs. Usually I charge for it, but your story matters. Let's work together. Build something that not only supports you financially but creates meaning. I can't afford. Did I say anything about payment? Consider this my contribution to your rebuild. I believe in you, Simone. Let me help you believe in yourself. I fought back tears. Why would you do that for me? Because 15 years ago I was you. Divorced, broke, starting over. A woman I didn't know gave me a chance, believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Now I pay it forward. We shook hands, and just like that, I had a mentor. Someone who saw potential in me even when I couldn't see it myself. Walking to my car, I called Natasha. "I think things are actually going to be okay." "Of course they are. I've been telling you that for weeks." "No, I mean really okay. Not just surviving. Actually thriving. That's my girl. You're remembering who you are." And she was right. I was remembering. The woman I'd been before Derek, before kids, before I'd sacrificed my dreams for someone else's vision of our life. That woman was smart, capable, strong. That woman was still me. I just had to let her out. Rochelle Hampton's deposition was scheduled for a Wednesday morning at Beverly's office. I wasn't required to be there, but Beverly suggested it. Sometimes seeing the other woman face to face brings closure. And honestly, your presence might make her more nervous, more likely to slip up. So I went. Rochelle arrived 10 minutes late, dressed in designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 32, 33. Tall, thin, confident until she saw me sitting next to Beverly. Then her confidence cracked just a little. The court reporter set up her equipment. Derek's attorney Patterson was there, looking irritated. Beverly reviewed the ground rules, then nodded to the reporter. "State your full name for the record." "Rochelle Marie Hampton." "Ms. Hampton, how do you know Derek Carter?" "He's a client. I'm a real estate agent. I've helped him acquire several investment properties over the past 2 years." "Just a client? Nothing more?" Rochelle's eyes flicked to Patterson, who nodded slightly. "We're friends, but it's primarily a business relationship." Beverly slid a document across the table. "These are email exchanges between you and Mr. Carter. Can you explain what you mean by, 'Can't wait to have you all to myself in Cabo'? That seems rather intimate for a business relationship." Rochelle's face flushed. Derek was going to look at properties in Cabo. I was going to show him some options. The phrasing was just, friendly. "Friendly," Beverly repeated flatly. She produced another document. "What about this text message? Missing you already. 2 more weeks until Mexico and I have you all to myself. That's from you to Mr. Carter, sent while he was on a family vacation with his wife and children. Still just friendly?" We're close. We spend a lot of time together for business. It's natural to miss someone you work with frequently. Ms. Hampton, let's discuss the Miami property. The condo at 1847 Ocean Drive, purchased in February for $425,000. Who lives there? I do. And what's your monthly rent? Silence. Ms. Hampton, what do you pay in rent each month? I don't. It's complicated. It's actually quite simple. Either you pay rent or you don't. Which is it? Rochelle looked at Patterson again. He leaned forward. My client advises Ms. Hampton not to answer questions that might implicate her in legal matters. Beverly smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Your client can advise whatever he wants, but Ms. Hampton is under oath. Refusing to answer is its own kind of answer. Let me rephrase. Have you ever paid rent to live in the Miami property? No. Has Derek Carter paid rent to live there? No. So you're living in a $425,000 condo, purchased with marital funds belonging to Mr. Carter and his wife, paying no rent. For how long? Since March. 7 months. And you're aware that Mrs. Carter had no knowledge of this property? Derek said his marriage was over. That they were separated. Really? Because they were living together, sleeping in the same bed, and planning a family vacation when he purchased this property for you. Does that sound separated? Rochelle's voice got small. He said they were working out the details. That the divorce was coming. Did he tell you he was funding this condo with money he stole from his wife? Money from her deceased father's inheritance. I didn't know where the money came from. That wasn't my business. But you knew he was married. You knew his wife wasn't aware of the property. And you accepted it anyway. I didn't accept it. It's an investment property. I'm just staying there temporarily. Beverly pulled out another document. This is the deed. Derek Carter, sole owner. But this, she produced a second document, is a quitclaim deed found in Mr. Carter's files, not yet executed, transferring the property to your name. Were you aware he intended to gift you this property? Rochelle looked genuinely shocked. No. I had no idea. So he bought you a $425,000 condo, let you live there rent-free and planned to transfer full ownership to you, and you thought this was all just business? I didn't know about the transfer. But you knew about the rest. You knew you were living in a property his wife didn't know about, funded by money his wife didn't know he'd taken, while maintaining a relationship his wife didn't know existed. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Miss Hampton? Beverly's voice was sharp now. Explain to Mrs. Carter, who's sitting right there, what it was like. Explain how you justified taking her husband's time, attention, and $425,000 of her inheritance money for a beach condo. Rochelle looked at me for the first time. Really looked at me. I held her gaze, calm and steady, letting her see exactly what she'd helped destroy. She looked away first. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought he was telling the truth about being separated. I wouldn't have. I'm not that kind of person. What kind of person is that? I asked. My first words of the deposition. Everyone turned to look at me. Beverly put a warning hand on my arm, but I continued. I'm genuinely asking. What kind of person accepts a $425,000 condo from a married man? What kind of person plans romantic trips with someone who has a wife and 2 children at home? What kind of person are you trying to say you're not? I thought he was leaving you, Rochelle said, tears in her eyes now. He made it sound like the marriage was dead. Like you were just roommates at that point. We were sleeping in the same bed. Raising our children together. Planning vacations. Does that sound dead to you? I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I leaned forward. Did you know he told our 9-year-old daughter we were going to Hawaii for her birthday? That she made a countdown calendar and practiced swimming because she was so excited? Did he mention that while you two were planning Cabo? Rochelle's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 12 years of trust. Sorry doesn't explain to my son why his father lied to him. Sorry is just a word that makes you feel better about the choices you made. Beverly squeezed my arm gently. Enough, she was saying. Let's stay professional. She turned back to Rochelle. Ms. Hampton, are you willing to testify that Derek Carter told you he was separated from his wife when you began your relationship? Yes. And are you willing to testify that he never mentioned taking money from joint accounts to fund the Miami property? Yes. And finally, are you willing to vacate the Miami property by the end of the month so it can be properly valued and included in the marital estate? Rochelle looked at Patterson. He shrugged. She doesn't really have a choice. She's living there without paying rent or having legal ownership. The property belongs to Mr. Carter, which means it's part of the divorce proceedings. Fine, Rochelle said quietly. I'll move out. Thank you. That's all for now. The deposition wrapped up. Rochelle left quickly, not looking at me. Patterson gathered his papers with angry efficiency. Beverly waited until they were gone, then turned to me. That was risky, asking your own questions. But effective. You got her to admit more than I would have. Because she's not the villain, I said, surprising myself. Derek is. She's just someone who believed his lies. You're more generous than most women would be. I'm not being generous. I'm being realistic. Derek lied to me for years. Why wouldn't he lie to her too? Outside, Natasha was waiting in the lobby. How'd it go? Rochelle's moving out of the Miami condo. Admitted Derek told her we were separated. Basically gave us everything we needed. Good. One more asset recovered. Tasha, do you think Derek really believed he was doing the right thing? That he'd convinced himself investing our money without telling me was somehow noble? She considered it. Maybe at first. But after the first few lies, after the first forged signature, he had to know it was wrong. He just chose to keep going anyway. Because he could. Because I wasn't paying attention. Because he thought I was too comfortable, too trusting, too weak. Stop. You weren't weak. You were a wife who trusted her husband. That's not weakness. That's what marriage is supposed to be. Supposed to be. But wasn't. We drove home in comfortable silence. I thought about Rochelle, about the tears in her eyes when she'd realized what she'd been part of. About Derek, living in his brother's apartment, his $1 million empire frozen by court order. About myself, 3 weeks ago versus now. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a woman whose world had shattered. Now I was a woman rebuilding, taking classes, making plans, fighting legal battles, raising her children, moving forward. Not healed. Not yet. But healing. And that was enough for now. 3 days before our scheduled divorce hearing, Patterson called Beverly with a settlement offer. Beverly put him on speaker so I could hear. My client is willing to concede 60% of the marital estate to Mrs. Carter, full custody of the children with standard visitation, and continued payment of the mortgage on the family home. In exchange, Mrs. Carter drops any pursuit of criminal charges. 60% of what he stole from her? Beverly's voice was ice. Your client seems confused about how this works. It's a generous offer considering. Considering what? That he committed fraud? That a judge already sided with Mrs. Carter in temporary orders? That we have 11 counts of forgery documented? She looked at me, eyebrows raised. I shook my head. Not enough. Counter-offer, Beverly continued. 75% of all assets acquired with marital funds. That includes the properties, the LLC, the investment accounts, everything. Full custody with supervised visitation until Mr. Carter completes a financial honesty course and demonstrates trustworthiness. He continues paying the mortgage and pays all legal fees accrued by Mrs. Carter. And we don't pursue criminal charges, yet. That remains on the table if he violates any terms. 75%? That's unconscionable. No, stealing from your wife is unconscionable. Forging her signature 11 times is unconscionable. Buying your mistress a condo with your father-in-law's inheritance money is unconscionable. 75% is mercy. We could push for 90 and probably get it based on asset dissipation alone. Tell your client he has 24 hours to accept, or we proceed to hearing and let Judge Okafor decide. And we both know how that will go. She hung up before Patterson could respond. I stared at her. 75%? Can we actually get that? Honestly? Yes. The dissipation of assets, the Miami condo especially, gives us grounds to argue for a higher percentage. When one spouse uses marital funds for an affair, courts punish that. Art. Combined with the fraud, the forged signatures, the secret LLC, Judge Okafor would likely award you 70, maybe 75% without us even asking. What's that come to in actual money? Beverly pulled out her calculator. Total marital estate, after accounting for the properties, investments, and appreciation, is approximately $1,043,000. 75% of that is $782,250. Add in the house equity, subtract what Derek owes on various mortgages, and you're looking at roughly $650,000 in liquid assets plus the house. $650,000. More money than I'd ever imagined having. What happens if he doesn't accept? We go to hearing. Judge Okafor rules. Could be better for you, could be slightly worse. But given how that temporary orders hearing went, I'm betting better. My phone rang. Dominique. Sorry, I need to take this. I stepped out of Beverly's office. Hey yourself. How's the warrior doing today? I told her about the settlement offer. About 75%. About Derek having 24 hours to decide. How do you feel? She asked. Terrified. Excited. Guilty, which is stupid because he's the one who stole from me, but still. Guilty that I'm taking so much. You're not taking anything. You're reclaiming what's yours. There's a difference. 75% though, is less than he deserves to lose. Simone, listen to me. This isn't about punishment. This is about justice. He stole from you, lied to you, planned to leave you with nothing. You fought back and won. That's not greed. That's survival. What if the kids resent me someday? What if they think I destroyed their father? Then you tell them the truth. That their father made choices that had consequences. That you protected them and yourself the best way you knew how. That love doesn't mean accepting abuse. She was right. I knew she was right. But the guilt lingered anyway. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Derek, about the man I'd married 12 years ago. That Derek had been kind, ambitious, funny. We'd had dreams together. We'd built a life. When had he changed? Or had he always been this person and I just refused to see it? Around 2 a.m. I gave up on sleep and went to my computer. Opened the folder with all the financial documents. Looked at the timeline Gerald had created. The first unauthorized transfer, 27 months ago. Right after my father died. Right after that $67,000 inheritance hit our joint account. He'd seen my grief as an opportunity. Something cold settled in my chest, burning away the guilt. He'd waited until I was at my lowest, mourning my father, and used that moment to start stealing. That wasn't a good man making mistakes. That was calculated. Predatory. I thought about Brielle watching me fight back. About Cameron learning what strength looked like. About the woman I'd been 3 weeks ago versus the woman I was becoming. I pulled out my phone and texted Beverly, accept nothing less than 75%. If he doesn't agree, we go to hearing and push for more. Her response came immediately, that's my girl. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. The next morning, Derek called Beverly. He'd accept the 75%. Beverly called me with the news, triumph in her voice. He folded. His attorney advised him that going to hearing would probably result in a worse outcome. He'll sign the settlement agreement tomorrow. You won, Simone. You actually won. I sat down on my kitchen floor and cried. Not sad tears. Not angry tears. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. It was over. The fighting, the fear, the uncertainty. Over. Brielle found me there. Mom? Why are you crying? I pulled her down beside me. Happy tears, baby. Your dad agreed to the divorce settlement. Everything's going to be okay now. Does that mean he's not coming back? No, sweetheart. He's not coming back. But you'll still see him if you want to. Just not here. This is our home now. She leaned against my shoulder. I'm mad at him. I know. But I miss him too. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. You can be mad at someone and miss them at the same time. Love is complicated like that. Do you still love him? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I love the man I thought he was. But that man doesn't exist. Maybe he never did. So no, I don't think I love who he actually is. But I loved who we were together once. And that's okay to miss, even when you're glad it's over. She nodded against my shoulder. 9 years old and already learning lessons about love and loss I'd hoped she'd never need. Cameron wandered in, rubbing his eyes. Why is everybody on the floor? Because sometimes good news makes you want to sit down, I said, pulling him into the hug. And I have good news. We get to stay in our house. Everything's going to be stable now. No more scary surprises. Can we get a dog? I laughed, surprised into joy. Maybe. Let's get through the next few weeks first, okay? Okay. But I'm making a list of dog names just in case. They ran off to start their list, fighting already about whether Biscuit was better than Thunder. Mom appeared in the kitchen doorway, tears streaming down her face. You did it, baby girl. You really did it. We did it. You, me, Natasha, Beverly. I couldn't have done this alone. But you're the one who found the courage to fight. Nobody could have done that for you. She was right. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges came, I'd proven to myself that I was strong enough to face them. The settlement papers were signed 2 days later. Derek and I sat in a conference room at Beverly's office, not looking at each other, while our attorneys reviewed each section. The marital residence remains with Mrs. Carter, Beverly read. Mr. Carter will transfer his half of the equity as part of the settlement and will continue paying the mortgage for 18 months to facilitate her transition to sole ownership. Investment properties will be divided as follows. Mrs. Carter receives the Austin property, the Charlotte property, and full ownership of Carter Investments LLC. Mr. Carter retains the Atlanta property and the Miami condo, with the understanding that the Miami condo's value is significantly reduced in his share due to its dissipation of marital assets. Liquid assets, including investment accounts and the cryptocurrency wallet, will be divided 75/25% in Mrs. Carter's favor. Child custody is awarded primarily to Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter will have supervised visitation biweekly until completion of a financial responsibility course and a parenting course, at which point visitation may be reassessed. Child support is set at $6,800 monthly, to be paid by the 15th of each month. On and on it went. Every piece of our marriage divided, valued, assigned. When it came time to sign, Derek's hand shook. He looked at me once and I saw something I hadn't expected, genuine regret. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry." I looked at him, this man I'd loved, who'd betrayed me, who taught me I was stronger than I knew. "I hope you figure out what you were trying to prove. I hope you learn something from this. But mostly, Derek, I hope you stay away from us and let us heal." He signed. I signed. And just like that, after 12 years of marriage, we were done. Outside, Natasha was waiting with flowers and champagne. "To new beginnings," she said, popping the cork. "To new beginnings," I repeated. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my home office, Derek's old office, now mine, and looked at the settlement agreement. At the numbers that represented my future. $650,000 in assets. A house. A business I was building. 2 healthy, resilient children. A mother who loved me. Friends who'd stood by me. Not the life I'd planned, but maybe a better one. I opened my laptop and sent my first business email as Simone Carter Consulting. "Hello, I'm a marketing consultant specializing in helping women-owned businesses grow. I'd love to discuss how I can help you reach your goals." Sent it to the bakery owner Natasha's friend had mentioned. To a nonprofit that needed help with their fundraising campaign. To 3 other small businesses I'd identified as potential clients. Then I opened a new document and started writing. 10 lessons I learned rebuilding my life after financial betrayal. Maybe someday I'd turn it into a book. Maybe I'd use it in workshops to help other women. Maybe it would just be, for me, a record of how I'd survived the worst and came out stronger. But I was writing it. Creating something. Moving forward. The past 3 weeks had broken me and remade me. I wasn't who I'd been when I'd found that email at 3:47 a.m. I was someone better. Someone fiercer. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who would never let anyone steal her power again. 6 months later. I stood on the balcony of my new downtown loft, watching the sunset paint the city in gold and orange. This wasn't the suburbs anymore. This wasn't the house I'd shared with Derek. This was mine, a space I'd chosen, designed, paid for with money I'd fought to reclaim. The marital house had sold for $485,000. With my equity and Derek's share transferred to me, I'd walked away with $340,000 after paying off the mortgage. Combined with my settlement assets, I had the freedom to choose my next chapter. I'd chosen luxury. Not the false luxury Derek had built with stolen money. Real luxury. Earned luxury. The kind that came from knowing every dollar was mine, every decision was mine, every risk and reward was mine. The loft was sleek, modern, everything I'd never allowed myself when I was married. Black granite counters, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view that made me feel like I was flying. 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for each of the kids, and they decorated them however they wanted. Brielle's was covered in posters of her favorite singers. Cameron's looked like an art studio, paintings covering every wall. "Mom?" Cameron called from inside. "Aunt Tasha's here." I walked back in to find Natasha setting up for our business meeting. 6 months ago, she'd offered to invest in Simone Carter Consulting. Now we were partners in a marketing and financial consulting firm specifically for women entrepreneurs, women who'd been through transitions, trauma, rebuilding. Our client list had grown faster than we'd expected. 12 active clients, 3 more in the pipeline. Women who saw my story online, who'd gone through divorces or financial abuse or just needed someone who understood what it meant to start over. I wasn't making millions. Not yet. But I was making enough. And more importantly, I was making a difference. "Okay," Natasha said, pulling out her laptop. "Let's talk about the New York opportunity." A major women's business conference had invited me to speak. My story, from betrayed wife to successful entrepreneur, resonated. They wanted me on their main stage discussing financial independence after divorce. It's 2,000 attendees, Natasha said. Major visibility. Could bring in 20 new clients easily. But it means going public with your story in a big way. Are you ready for that? I thought about it. About standing on a stage, sharing my pain and triumph with thousands of women. About becoming the face of financial recovery after abuse. Yes, I said. I'm ready. Dominique had been coaching me for this. Teaching me how to tell my story in a way that empowered rather than victimized. How to turn trauma into testimony, pain into purpose. She arrived an hour later for our weekly strategy session. We'd become close friends over the months. She'd been through something similar 15 years ago, and her guidance had been invaluable. I brought someone, she said, stepping aside to reveal a woman in her late 30s, nervous expression. Simone, this is Angela. She's going through a divorce. Her husband hid money. She needs help. I recognized the look in Angela's eyes. The fear, the uncertainty, the shame mixed with anger. I'd worn that expression 6 months ago. I invited her in, made tea, and listened to her story. Her husband had a secret bank account. Had been moving money for years. She'd found out when he filed for divorce and claimed they had almost nothing. What do I do? She asked, tears streaming. He says I can't prove anything. Says I'm just being paranoid. You document everything, I said. Every conversation, every transaction you can find, every statement. Then you hire a forensic accountant. I know a good one. Then you get an attorney who specializes in financial abuse. I know one of those too. And then you fight. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You're here, aren't you? That's the first step. Asking for help. The rest comes one decision at a time. We talked for an hour. I gave her Beverly's number, Gerald's contact information, resources I'd compiled for women in her situation. By the time she left, she looked different. Still scared but determined. Dominique hugged me after Angela was gone. You know what you're doing now? You're saving women. The way I saved you. The way someone saved me. That's the cycle. She saved herself. I just gave her the tools. Same thing. That night, I took the kids to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. Not because it was special occasion. Because I could. Because I'd worked hard, earned money, and wanted to celebrate being alive. Cameron ordered the most expensive thing on the kids' menu and giggled about it. Brielle got dessert even though she didn't finish her dinner. I let them because childhood should have joy and they'd been through enough. Mom, Brielle said between bites of chocolate cake. I'm proud of you. Yeah. My throat tightened. Yeah. You took something really bad and made it good. That's cool. We all did that. You guys were so brave through everything. We had to be. You were being brave first. After dinner we walked through the city. Street lamps glowing, people everywhere, the energy of urban life surrounding us. This was different from the suburbs. Louder, more chaotic, but alive in a way I'd forgotten I loved. Do you miss Dad? Cameron asked suddenly. Sometimes I miss who I thought he was. But mostly I'm grateful for what he taught me, that I'm stronger than I knew. I miss him, Cameron admitted. But I like our life now better. Is that bad? No, sweetheart. That's honest. You can miss someone and still be glad things changed. Derek's supervised visitation had eventually graduated to unsupervised. He saw the kids every other weekend now, took them to movies and parks and tried to be the father he hadn't been before. Whether he'd learned anything I didn't know. But he was trying, and for the kids' sake I was glad. He'd kept the Atlanta property and the Miami condo. Last I heard through mutual acquaintances, Rochelle had moved out and he was selling it. Using the money to rebuild, presumably. Learning to live within his means. Maybe even learning to be honest. I hope so for his sake. But I didn't think about him much anymore. Back at the loft, I tucked the kids into their beds. Read Cameron a story about a dragon who learned to fly. Talked with Brielle about her upcoming middle school applications. She wanted to try for a prestigious arts program. You can do anything you set your mind to, I told her. You've already proven that. So have you, Mom? After they were asleep, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony. The city stretched out before me, millions of lights, millions of stories. Mine was just one of them. But it was mine and I'd fought for it and I'd won. My phone buzzed. An email notification. The New York conference confirming my speaking slot. March 15th, main stage 45-minute keynote. From betrayal to business. Building financial independence after divorce. I'd be terrified. But I'd do it anyway. Because that's what warriors did. The luxury I'd built wasn't just about the loft or the view or the financial freedom, though those mattered. It was about choice. About waking up every morning and deciding who I wanted to be, what I wanted to build, how I wanted to live. Derek had tried to take that from me. Had stolen my money, my trust, my sense of self. He thought I was comfortable, soft, easy to deceive. He'd been so wrong. I'd been strong all along. I'd just forgotten. But I remembered now. And I would never forget again.